Welcome to Stitchery Stories, where textile artists share their life in fabric and thread, inspiration, techniques, disasters and delights. And I'm Susan Reeks, enthusiastic embroiderer and textile art dabbler who also loves podcasting. So take a break and enjoy our light-hearted chat, and please share with your friends so they can enjoy it too. Hello and welcome to our lovely guest today, Bryony Rose Jennings. Hi Bryony.
Hello.
Right, it's lovely to speak to you today, Bryony. We were having a bit of a laugh. We've had a few last-minute hiccups there, all on my point, actually. I'm normally a lot more organised than I was this morning, but never mind, we are here, which is the main thing.
We are.
Yeah, and I was just talking with Bryony there, saying that I actually was stalking her. I found her because she was doing some workshops with Fibre Arts Australia, and one of my other guests, I think it was Laura Edgar, had been there, and I was, you know what it's like when you start following links, and I saw these lovely little creatures. I thought, right, that's somebody I really want to have on my show. So finally we've got connected, and that's what we've done. So I've got a bio here for Bryony. Bryony Jennings is a textile sculpture artist and tutor. She lives in Portsmouth, Hampshire, with her partner and their 2 sons. And over the past 10 years, she has developed her own style of textile sculpture and has stitched together a vast menagerie of characterful creatures from all manners of reclaimed textiles, found objects and fibres. Bryony studied jewellery and silversmithing at Birmingham City University. After graduating, she worked for an independent jewellery chain for 5 years. In 2010, Bryony opened an art and craft gallery in Chichester in partnership with her mum, Margaret, and the gallery was called Pretty Scruffy. They had 3 happy years running the gallery, stitching behind the counter, selling Bryony's sculptures and Margaret's ceramics, alongside work sourced from a vibrant community of local artists and makers. They closed the gallery in 2013, allowing Bryony to focus on raising her growing family and to dedicate any spare time solely to her own art practice. She now works from her home studio, mainly stitching at night whilst the children sleep. Hopefully. Bryony currently exhibits in galleries throughout the UK and offers workshops both locally and internationally, having most recently taught with Fibre Arts Australia, Great Southern Workshops Australia and Fibre Arts New Zealand. So there we are, that's Bryony. So welcome once again.
Thank you.
So, that made me laugh about doing the stitching at night whilst the children sleep. So luckily my boy's 14 now, so, I can just leave him to stare at his phone endlessly, can't I? So I don't need to go those...
How wonderful.
But I do remember when he was little, it was the same thing. Oh, he's having a sleep for an hour because we lived in France, he's having a sleep now. Right, go and do something useful for an hour. So,
yeah, it's a bit touch and go still.
Yes. Well,
if and when they sleep.
Yeah. So anyway, I'm glad we've managed to find a time when we could talk. So before we get started with your stitchery story today, Bryony, would you like to share with us what you're working on and what's got you excited?
At the moment, I'm currently exhibiting at Unit 12 Gallery in Stafford. Right. And I'm working on another fox for them because they've just sold the only fox I supplied them with. So I'm quickly whipping up another fox, and I'm also trying to make some work for Christmas and some work to stock a few galleries that I've run out of work with, really.
Right, brilliant. So you're busy restocking and remaking at the moment then?
Yes.
Yeah.
So sort of with the big C word in mind.
Yes, I'm going to say.
It's looming.
It is, and in terms of makers, yes, it is looming, isn't it? If not already loomed.
Yes.
Yeah. Brilliant. And it's quite an interesting path there from bio, talking about jewellery and silversmithing, and now here you are making these lovely textile sculptures of foxes and dogs and all sorts. So that's quite an interesting path. So how did you move from there, or from studying those things, to getting interested in embroidery and textile art in the first place?
Well, it has been a wiggly path.
Yes.
I have always been interested in textiles. Growing up, I was your typical magpie. So sparkly things and collecting things and hoarding treasures appealed to me. But also I was always attracted to cloth and stitch. And I grew up doing lots of needlework and things like that. So it was actually during my foundation year at South Downs College that I really explored textiles as a medium. And a part of me regrets not doing textiles for my degree course, but I really enjoyed studying jewellery and silversmithing, and I do still make jewellery, and it has informed the way I work now with my animals as well. I do use a lot of wire work and a lot of sort of construction techniques, and
Right.
yeah, some of the skills have been transferable. So yes, I can't really quite define how I got here, but lots of different elements have led me to go back to textiles. Especially since I've had children, I find it a much easier medium to fit in to the home, because this is where I work.
Yes.
It's a little bit more practical than getting the hammer and tongs and the blowtorch out.
Mummy, can
and
we
also
help,
I love
please?
it. Yeah, there's a lot of mummy, can we help you anyway going on with my 3-year-old, who has been trained with needles and pins and things to be safe, because he always wants to get stuck in as well.
Yeah, my boy was always like that. When I get there, I've got I'm just a dabbler really, but it's like a toolbox that's full of scissors and pins and all my sewing stuff's all in this toolbox. And I've had this for years, this toolbox. And he's fascinated by it, of course, because it's full of pins and sharp things.
Oh, wonderfully tempting. Exactly. Yes, I can imagine.
Right, I'll just do a bit of sewing and out comes a toolbox. And it's like, then he's rooting about in it. He's got bored with it now, finally. But it's like your hands in your mouth, isn't it? Thinking, put them scissors down.
Yeah, please don't. I know. Only this morning I was extracting a needle from my child. Please don't play with that this morning.
I don't have time to go to the hospital.
No. Luckily it's not got to that quite yet.
Brilliant. Well, it's like anything, isn't it? So once some things like no, don't touch, etc., they just want to do it even more, don't they? So I think if you let them have a root around and a play, then eventually they do kind of, actually it's not that interesting, and go back to Lego or something.
Yeah, definitely. My 3-year-old has his own embroidery hoop, so he can go off and do some stitches if he's feeling keen, but my 5-year-old's not really that interested anymore. No. Been there, done that. So yeah, that's good.
Just leave mum to get on with what she's doing. Right then, so as you say, nothing in particular, but it is interesting saying that you've the skills particularly, because you're still working in, jewellery is a 3-dimensional thing anyway, so you've got the shape and coming up with the shapes, and you say the wire work and stuff. So yes, actually, although you would say when you first look at them, what is the link between jewellery and stuffed foxes? There it is. It's the internals and the structure and working in 3D, I suppose.
It is, and I consider my approach to textiles, I build with textiles and I construct, and it does take my process is influenced by sort of ceramic techniques, painterly techniques and jewelry techniques. And it all sort of comes together to create these overworked, unique creatures that I've come up with. And it is a process that, is informed by quite a wide range of methods and skills that I've picked up from, foundation course onwards, really.
Okay, well, that's quite an interesting path as well. As you say, not necessarily the typical, or not typical, but a common path that we hear is, people have gone and done the degree in textiles, or they've been learning since they were 3, etc., etc. So, thank you for sharing that with us. That's really great, Bryony.
That's okay.
So, moving on from there, then, who or what have been major inspirations to you over the years? On that wiggly path, is there anything that, or any source, or any person or group of people that kind of leaps out and thinks, I've always been inspired by those, and does that therefore reflect in your work in any way?
It's quite a wide range again. I mean, typically I had 2 grandmas who, just got on with it. They just knitted, stitched, sewed clothes together, and they did that as a matter of course. It wasn't an art practice, so to speak, but that was always there. And my grandma, on my mum's side, was always quite happy to let me root around in her knitting bag and her sewing bag and have a little play. So that was there. And my parents are also artistic. My dad is a surrealist box artist. He creates deceptive receptacles. And my mum, she has always used clay and made ceramics, but she gave us a huge creative, array of materials to play with when we were younger. So we grew up just thinking that was part of life, really.
Yes.
That was something you did to entertain yourself. You can make something or paint something or go into the garden and make a mud pie or build a house out of sticks. So I think all of that has led to, my interest, really.
Yeah.
And textiles wise, yes, I just had some really wonderful tutors at college. I studied art at A level, and then I went on to do this foundation year, and we just had this opportunity to just play with so many different materials. And I did really focus on textiles and machine embroidery during my foundation year.
Right.
I made a big tent of machine embroidery sort of webs made with soluble fabric, and I just had, that was probably a really pivotal point for me. It was such an amazing thing to get lost in, and I really did get lost in making these webs, and just being on the sewing machine for, I don't know, about 3 months of the course, and I absolutely loved that. And I elected to do a textiles module during my jewellery and silversmithing degree, which was also informed my practice now. And I've never really let it go. Even when I was working in the jewellery shops, I was still going home and sewing fabric to pieces of silver and making jewellery that had fabric elements to it as well. So it's always been there.
Now, the other thing I was going to speak to you about as well, I just mentioned earlier on about, you're saying about doing workshops locally and internationally and with Fibre Arts Australia. So that must be a bit of a juggling act, though, isn't it, when you've got small children to disappear off to Australia for weeks on end?
It is. I've been to Australia twice now, and most recently I went earlier this year, and I actually took the children and my partner and my parents with me this time. I absolutely adore doing it, and it's the most wonderful experience. And the hosts out there and all the students and the fellow tutors they just all combine to make a really magical atmosphere. And I was desperate to do it again. So I thought, how can I go to Australia for 6 weeks without my family? So we juggled things and we made it work, and my family accompanied me for a month. And we managed to fit quite a bit of travelling around and adventuring in between my workshop commitments. And then they came home and I stayed on for another 2 weeks, which was exhausting, but really worth it. Yeah. Really big adventure. And I think a very valuable adventure for my children as well.
Very much so, yeah. So that was absolutely wonderful that you could combine that. And whereabouts were you based?
In Australia?
Yes.
I started out in Western Australia, and I did some workshops with Shares of Great Southern Workshops, and that was in Cranbrook, which is on the southwest coast of Australia near Albany.
Yes.
And from there, we travelled back up the coast, flew from Perth over to Melbourne, and I taught with Fibre Arts Australia in Ballarat.
Oh, I love it there.
Oh, it's really lovely. Yeah, it's one of my favourite places in the world at the moment, even though I've only been there twice. But just everything combines to make it a wonderful experience. And you can go for a walk down to the lake in the morning before teaching, and they have some wonderful opportunity shops nearby, and all my favourite things in one place.
Brilliant. Oh, that's really great. Yeah, and how lovely for your kids. My sons had been dragged around all over the place when he was small as well. So it's some of it is forgotten about, but it's still there, isn't it? And it just has that different attitude about the world and travelling and things, and kids who've not been anywhere, sadly. So but I was just dying to know how you
very lucky.
how you'd manage that. So I love Ballarat. It's a lovely place. I've been to Australia quite a lot of times, and it's just like I want to take him back. This is all before he existed. So it's on the list to see how we can manage to do that. Right, that was
fantastic.
A bit of a digression, but I was dying to know.
Well, just through sheer determination, really. If you want something enough, you can make it happen. Took a lot of organising.
That is very true. And I came across a saying, one of these quotes the other day. I can't remember who it was by, but it was along the lines of, if you want to make something happen, you will. And if you're not that bothered, you'll make an excuse. That wasn't the quote, but that was the in.
No, I know exactly what you mean.
I forgot the actual quote, but anyway, I'm rubbish at remembering quotes. But so anyway, now you've mentioned about how your artistic background and the jewelry and the silversmithing and everything's all kind of combined to where you are now. So in terms of techniques, what do you have any specific favorite techniques? Why do you like them so much? How you're saying your technique has evolved as well, I suppose your characters have evolved. Do you want to kind of share with us a bit about that, Bryony?
They have very much evolved. The animal side of things all started with making a life-size fabric donkey.
A life-sized fabric?
A life-size fabric donkey. I do like to work life-size, so I know you don't always get an idea of scale from my photos online, etc. But most of them are life-size or exaggerated size. I do scale some things down if I need to, but I do like working to scale really. And it all started with this donkey, and that came about me and a mad friend who's still a very good friend were asked to create something for a seaside exhibition for an art trail at the beach huts in the town where we used to live. And we were young and ambitious and mad, and we just thought, we've got 4 days and 4 nights, let's make a patchwork life-size fabric donkey.
Like you do. Had you been in the at the time?
No, surprisingly not. No, we were just high on creativity. And we did like to challenge ourselves. But that was made, we cobbled together a frame from the wood pile. We stuffed it with empty plastic milk bottles, and we wrapped it in old bed sheets, and then we padded it out with old cushions, and then we sewed this skin over the top, and it looked a lot more professional than it sounded. And from that point on, I was just enchanted with what you could create if you put your mind to it. And so I carried on developing that process really. And I think it was good that it started out in such a kind of a madcap way, because I never felt limited or constrained by the methods in which I used to make the work. And I've definitely refined the techniques over time. But I still start with a frame. I usually use a professional sculpting wire now. And I do a lot of wrapping and stuffing, and I build it up in that way. And then I cover the piece and stick the skin, so to speak, over the top.
So you don't make the skin and then stuff it, you build it up from the framework.
No, it's almost the very opposite of toy making. There's no patterns or there's not really many soft bits either. They look very soft, and they are strokeable, but if you were to squeeze them, you'd find there's wire and quite a lot of structure under the padding, and I stuff them so firmly they're almost solid. And that's to give them a kind of a really fleshy appearance and to suggest muscle and the ability to move underneath their skin really.
So that's a very important difference. They're not toys, they're not stuffed toys, they are a sculpture with the structure inside, and then the fabric, as you say, is the last thing that goes on to create that skin. And skin's the right word for it as well, isn't it then? It
is. A bit of an uncomfortable term, but I think I would probably have made life a lot easier if I did start with a pattern and stuff them, etc. And there are elements of that in what I do, but no, I quite like my long-winded organic process. I think it produces more interesting work and work that appeals to me.
And I just love that comment there of it. Actually, it was really nice to start with the madcap idea, because you haven't constrained yourself. I love that idea of just starting with this. I can just imagine this huge donkey.
There's some photos of Flossie the donkey online, right back in the yesteryear of my Facebook page. And Flossie did us really proud. We carried her around London on our back and exhibited her at the Art Car Boot Fair, and she's very old now and very tired, and she's been displayed in a lot of places and ridden by a lot of children. And she's got broken back legs, but she's still going. She's still on display at the studio, which is a place I offer workshops locally.
Right, yeah.
And she calls people in there.
I love that. And I hadn't realised that typically things are life-sized as well. So that was a good thing that came out of that. You don't get the idea, do you, of pictures on your phone, on Instagram, etc.
No, it's quite difficult.
Yeah.
And I'm reticent to sort of put in a banana for scale or stand next to them when I'm taking photos. I'm not very photogenic myself.
Yeah.
So I do find it difficult to sort of suggest scale. I think, yes, a big photography studio is required with some beautiful homely props, but unfortunately my home's not quite up to that.
Well, we have
with children's toys.
Yeah, exactly. So you were just saying at the start there, you're whipping up another fox. So is the fox a life-sized one or slightly smaller?
I would say it's more the size of a fox cub.
Right.
It has an adult look about it, but yes, I scaled these down slightly.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's not far off life size.
Still a sizable piece of work then. Yes.
I actually find it easier to work larger than to work small. The mice can take me just as long as a larger piece because you're getting really lost in the finicky details, whereas you can be a little bit more expressive and elaborative on a larger piece of work.
Yes, I think that's very true as well. I always admire people who can do that really small. One of the ladies, Alison, she was actually my first guest, who was in my Embroiderers Guild branch. She has done some fantastic small miniature embroidery, and she does work on a fairly small detailed scale. And I just look at that and think, well, hey, I'm going to go blind if I kind of try and stare at that. And I don't think my patience level would manage that scale either. But hats off to anybody who works at a different scale, be it small, like Alison and other people do, you making a massive patchwork donkey, excellent. Hats off to you all.
I have a lot of admiration for people that can work in miniature because it is very challenging.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, it's not for me. There again, never mind.
No, I don't do neat little stitches either. My stitches are quite bold and expressive and functional, so that lends itself to larger.
Yes, I think so. Well. But that's part of the charm of it all as well, isn't it?
I think so.
Yes.
Yes.
And in terms of, you said you were kind of using like upcycled materials and so on. So do you have a nice big stash that you go rooting through to come up with what you're going to make your animals with?
Yeah, I have a really embarrassingly large stash. My studio is basically a nest of fabric. And I just go and dive into it and get lost amongst it. And far too much fabric, really. I find myself occasionally running off curtains and things just to try and move some into another room. But yeah, I really, really love fabric and I can't pass it by. I go to charity shops and car boot sales and I have fabric donated to me. And it's very rare that I look at a piece of fabric and think, oh, I'll never be able to use that.
Right.
Because, where I can cut up all the different elements of fabric and use the texture of fabric and, fray it and distress it to create just an eyelash or the inner ear or a pad of a paw. I find a use for everything, really.
Right.
So, not much gets thrown away.
Yeah.
Not even the tiny scrappy bits. There's a box for them as well.
Well, there's always a use for bits and pieces like that, isn't there?
There is.
So, Bryony, before I forget, we just need to make sure people know where they can find you and stalk you. So your website is prettyscruffy.com. And you've also got a Facebook page as well, and that's Bryony Rose Textile Menagerie. On Instagram, you're Bryony Rose Jennings.
Yeah, just to really confuse people.
Yeah.
3 different. No, I need to redo the website under the same name, really. I've had that website since I had the gallery.
Right, so, yes, that was your gallery name, wasn't it?
It was, and I'm quite attached to the name Pretty Scruffy, even though I've probably grown out of it by now.
Well, those are the links anyway. So do go and have a look at what Bryony's doing and go and like her page and follow her on Instagram and so on. And then we can see what gets created next. That's always nice to see, isn't it?
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing that lovely story of starting off with the massive donkey, and at the moment you're kind of running up a fox, etc. So out of all of these things and your travel, what would you say, have you got a high point of your career, your artistic career so far, Bryony?
It's tricky to pinpoint just one, really. Mm-hmm. I really enjoyed my first experience in Australia, teaching out there. I think that's when I had offered a few workshops back in the UK myself, and I'd really enjoyed them. But I think it's quite an immersive experience when you teach these 5-day courses.
Yes.
With students that bring lots of their own talents and their own ideas to the table. And for me, that sort of was the moment I realised that teaching was very important to me, and it would help me develop my practice as well as being able to give and share what I do with other people. And yeah, I just think it was a really symbiotic kind of relationship between me and the students. We they created some amazing work, and that in turn inspired me. And it makes me think out of the box, because you have 12 different people thinking. One of them wants to make a crocodile and one of them wants to make a kangaroo. And it really is challenging. And it can be quite a struggle at first because you can't see where any of these things are going. Yeah. But every student has a moment where they go, oh, I can see it. And that's just such an amazing feeling when you see that they can see where a piece of work is going and they really want to take it forward. Quite enlightening, really, because I was a new mum at the time and I'd just been working in my bedroom when I could, and to get out there and immerse myself in teaching and focusing on my techniques was really, really wonderful. Really good for my growth, so to speak.
It does us all good, doesn't it, to get out the house? I mean, I work from home and I'm dashing off to a networking thing, and sometimes I think, oh, do I need to go to these things? You know, you kind of half dread it. I think, oh, get out of the house. It's a nice day. Go on. You can spare a couple of hours and go meet some real life people.
Definitely. I mean, I get very nervous about anything I have to do beforehand, but I'm always so pleased that I've done it afterwards. Yeah. Which is why I force myself to do different things.
Yeah, well, that's what we all have to do, isn't it? I think you have to push ourselves out of our comfort zone, don't we? And I think it's lovely when you're in that artistic zone, you've got other people and you're saying you start to bounce ideas, they bounce ideas off each other and you, and then as you say, it then forces you to think in different ways, and how can we do this? How can we make a crocodile? Etc. So I think it does just really, really do us good to get out and about and expand our horizons. So that sounds like an absolutely fantastic experience, and certainly with you're talking about the second time when you went with your children as well, it must have just been really, really great.
It was very special, actually.
Now, do you have any stories? We know we have a bit of a laugh at this point, don't we, about anything that didn't go maybe quite as planned and was almost possibly a bit of a disaster? And importantly, what did you learn from that experience?
I have got a room upstairs full of unfinished or beheaded animals that they're not disasters. They're just works in progress that have been neglected for rather a long time.
I love that. I love that phrase. What's that? They're not disasters. They're just works in progress that have been neglected for a long time. That's fantastic. Well done.
I think because so much of my work is character-based, you know, I get to a point with the work and you start to see a character forming, and that's what leads me forward, you know. This fox looks a bit wily or a bit cunning, and then I build on that.
Right.
I can get to the point with some of the animals where I think, oh, I'm not sure I like you. And it's not because it's a bad piece of work, it's because it's got a certain glint in its eye or something. I've got 2 monkeys upstairs at the moment, which I really, really would love to finish because I do really like them. But my son's rather scared of one of them. I don't like that monkey. And it's great, but I don't know if you'd want to meet him in the jungle, because he does look like he would play a lot of tricks on you. But nothing's a disaster. Everything, there's hope for everything, I think.
Brilliant. And I just love that. Neglected works in progress. Excellent.
Yeah.
So really then that's answered the second question about dreaded UFOs, isn't it then? So they're not unfinished, they're just merely neglected works in progress.
Yeah, definitely. I think with the teaching as well, you end up with a lot of demonstration pieces.
Yes.
And you come home and you think, oh, I will finish that at some point, because I have lots of naked owls, lots of eyeless mice, and different kind of larger pieces in various stages of creation. And I know that one day I will get around to doing them, but there's always something more pressing going on. And I look forward to the luxury of having time to finish things, really.
I think you do create a lot anyway.
Oh, thank you. I don't feel like I do, but that's good to hear. I try my best.
Yeah. So in that case then, how, we've talked about you've got young children, what, they're 3 and 5 or something out there, so nursery and school, and how do you actually organise your creative time? Is there any specific blocks of time that you use, or any specific ways in which you manage to organise your creative time?
It does depend, really. Both myself and my partner are self-employed. Mm-hmm. So at the moment, my partner's out working in France, so I'm just at home with the children on my own. Yeah. So time is really limited at the moment. He will be back at some point. So when we kind of juggle a little bit, when he has more free time, then I go and hide in my room and make things. Yeah. And when he's not about, I have to take on more responsibility at home, etc. But I try and do something every night, because I start to get, I don't know how to explain it, but if I don't have the chance to be creative or to make, something inside me is just not me. And that's what keeps me going, really. So I do try and make some time every evening after I put the kids to bed. Yeah. To do a little bit of sewing or updating things online, answering emails. But I do find it a real juggle. Yeah. That's where teaching's lovely, because you put it in the calendar. You have this block of time where you're going off to teach. Yes. You can't take the children with you. And it's just a little bit of a luxury, booking a hotel for a night and saying to my lovely mum, please, can you have the children for the weekend? And then I get to go off and, be creative and spend time with creative people. And it's kind of compartmentalised, so I can go off and do that and be that person. And then I come back and I'm mum again. Yeah.
I think that's really important, though. And anybody with children would come up with the same kind of thing. It's very easy to lose ourselves, isn't it? We can lose ourselves in our being a mum and doing everything else. And then you turn around, and I've been through that, and you think, well, where have I gone? What do I do? What do I do for anything for me? And so I think you do have to be quite as firm as you can be to carve out that time to go and do something.
It's very difficult, actually. And I see it in a lot of my friends as well, and people that have been through it too, that I've spoken to, because that was one of the wonderful benefits of having the gallery. I met artists of all different ages and stages in their lives. So I did get quite a lot of advice, because my first child was born when I had the gallery. Yes. So I still had this wonderful artistic community to talk to about these sorts of things. And it differs. Some people just decided to put their art practice on hold, and some people carved out time for it. And some people, always prioritised it. And I think I just try and stay somewhere in the middle. Yeah, yeah. But I think it's important for the children as well to see that, mum does things and you can make crazy creatures and earn a living from it. And it's good to show them these possibilities. They're probably going to grow up and be like, oh no, I'm being an accountant. I want to be crazy like mum.
No, and I think that's the thing at this time in history. There's so many opportunities to do all sorts of things that nobody would ever imagine you could make a proper job out of it. Who'd have thought? And every time I speak to somebody doing this, it's like, wow, there's people making a living out of doing all these different things. It's absolutely wonderful. You don't have to always do what everybody expects you to do. So I know my son's just kind of quite, I've always worked from home since I've had him. Before that, I was a career girl. But, he comes back and he'll say to his friends, oh, wow, mum's doing a podcast. Or, oh, mum's doing a so-and-so, and she's speaking to somebody in America now. I could hear him muttering if he brings some friends home, or he's there going, be quiet, mum's doing something. She's got headphones on, So he's like, oh, yeah, mum, you're really cool. He's going, well, not really. He thinks
that's it, isn't it? It's lovely to have that feeling that they're proud of you as well.
And, yeah. I'd do something different for him. So that's interesting then. In terms of organising your creative time, you put some time and make a real effort every day to do something. And it doesn't have to have been for hours either, does it? It's just if you've done half an hour, you think, oh, I'm blessed. I've had half an hour doing what I wanted to do. So, yeah.
Definitely, yeah. I mean, obviously, when there's deadlines and things, that becomes a little bit more like, oh, no, I'm going to have to stay up till 3 in the morning and then get up and do the school run. But that's okay. I don't mind working like that because you can always catch up on sleep another day.
Yes. So therefore, when you are trying to carving time out, and you say sometimes you have got deadlines, what sort of future plans have you got that you might want to share with us, Bryony? Things that we can look out for where your work is, for example, or any other kind of teaching opportunities you'd like to share with us?
Well, at the moment, I have just put a workshop up online. I'm hosting myself a 3-day workshop in the UK, and that's to make slightly larger textile creatures, because I usually offer mice or bird workshops, which are 1-day affairs. And this is a 3-day workshop. That's at the studio, which is working pottery based in the grounds of Stansted House in Longlands Castle, which is local to where I live.
Right.
A really beautiful area. And so I'm looking forward to that. That's up on the website. That would just be quite an intimate affair, 5 people, all creating something weird and wonderful, hopefully.
Oh, it sounds fab.
That's going to be really good. That's at the end of October. I'm currently making a collection of work for the Ferrers Gallery in Leicestershire. I'm making them some mice. And I'm not sure what I'm doing at the moment with Christmas shows, etc. I might just sell online for Christmas. I'm trying not to take too much on right now because, I can overstretch myself if I'm not careful.
Yeah, Christmas is busy anyway, especially with kids as well, isn't it? There's always a million and other things to do as well. So, yeah.
There is. And I always find that I can, if whatever work I make, I will sell.
Yeah.
But it's best not to overcommit to, 4 fairs, etc. I've been in that position before and nearly killed myself.
So. Not good.
I'm trying to be sensible about what I take on these days.
Yeah.
And then, just going into next year, just some more workshops going up on the website and talks for various branches of the Embroiderers Guild and groups, and that's about it at the moment.
Well, that sounds quite a lot anyway. So, that 3-day workshop sounds brilliant. So, lots of workshops are 1 day because that's easy to get people, and the logistics is easier, isn't it? But I should imagine if you want to start doing some of the larger pieces, you just can't do it in a day. So, that would be a really nice idea. That so. Everybody get rushing off there and get yourself off to Bryony's website and go and have a look at her workshops. Okay, then.
Thank you.
So that brings us to the end of our chat today. Thank you so much, Bryony, for sharing your work and your inspirations and your large donkey. I can't get over that at all. That started it all off. It's been absolutely wonderful talking to you. And I'm sure if everybody goes off and follows you on Instagram and Facebook, that's where you are, and go and have a look at your website as well. So do go and follow Bryony and find out what she's doing. So as ever, you'll also see some images on the Stitchery Stories website under Bryony's episode. And there we are. That's everything. I think I finally remembered to do everything today. We've got there. Yay to us.
Thank you, Susan. It's been really lovely.
Oh, it's been an absolute pleasure, Bryony. It's been brilliant. Thank you so much.
Bye now.
If you liked this episode and want to hear more, then please join the Stitchery Stories fan club so you can get an email when a new episode is released. It's a quick and easy way of listening and of keeping up with any news and offers from our lovely guests. Please visit stitcherystories.com to join the fan club. Of course, if you have iTunes, then subscribe there to automatically get new episodes, and why not leave us a review and rating whilst you are there. So that is the end of our Stitchery story for today. So keep stitching, keep smiling, and keep creating your very own Stitchery stories.